On the 27th of June 1946, inside the walls of a notorious Czech prison, where thousands were executed by guillotine during World War II, a terrible collaborator of the Second World War was led to the execution post. The executioner and his assistant worked quickly to bring his final moments to an end. But what had this man done? Well, during the Second World War, he was a leader of a Czech fascist organisation, and they sided with the Nazis. And during the occupation of the country during World War II, Jan Rys-Rozsevac tried to bring his group in line with the Nazis and the Gestapo, but he was actually for some time locked up inside of Dachau Concentration Camp as a privileged prisoner. But why did Jan Rys-Rozsevac go to the execution pole for his actions during World War II? To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Jan Rys-Rozsevac was born on the 1st of November 1901, and as a young man he studied medicine, but did not complete his studies to become a doctor. However, in 1936 he joined a political group known as Vlajka. These were a Czech fascist nationalist movement, and they were very ruthless in their actions. In the late 1930s they planned bomb attacks upon minority groups, and they carried out these attacks against synagogues. But in the 1930s, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis planned to take the whole of Czechoslovakia. They were given the Sudetenland region of the country following the Munich Agreement, and they then wanted the whole of the nation, and they would occupy Czechoslovakia during the war, and they would also split the country up. Inside the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia, they placed notorious men such as Reinhard Heydrich in control of keeping the Czechs in submission, and making sure that they worked hard as the factories were actually arming the German war effort. During the Second World War, Jan Rys-Rozsevac became the leader of the Vlajka group, and he was a supporter of the Nazis, and in particular their policies towards Jewish people. He organised mass rallies against Czech political leaders, such as Beneš, but the German occupation authorities never really backed him, and they supported the rivals of Vlajka. Eventually the group was disbanded, and the Nazis actually arrested Rys-Rozsevac, and they locked him up inside the privileged prisoners section at Dachau. He never really faced execution or torture in the block at Dachau, as he was a privileged prisoner and was given certain concessions compared to other regular inmates. But at the end of the Second World War he was returned to Czech lands, and was passed to the Czech people, and was brought to trial. As a representative of Vlajka, and someone who collaborated and supported the Nazis, he was sentenced to death, but the method of execution he would face was pole hanging. This some claimed was quicker than using a gallows, and also more reliable, but with pole hanging it utilised an executioner and his assistant to work together to bring the swift death of the condemned. On the 27th of June 1946, Rys-Rozsevac was brought into the courtyard of Pankrac Prison, and he was led up to the 3-metre post. The executioner and his assistant hoisted him off the ground and held him in place using a chest sling. They then passed the ropes around his legs, keeping them secure, and also fitted and secured the noose around his neck, and passed this through the top of the post. When everything was ready, the executioner's assistant controlled the short drop, and the executioner, who was stood behind the post on a step, tried to shove his head to one side to dislocate his neck, and Rossevac's death was relatively quick. At the end of the Second World War, there were many former politicians and prominent members of government who were executed for their actions during the conflict. Some were condemned for their collaboration, and the fact they sold their people out to their enemies, but Jan Rys-Rozsevac was a dangerous politician, and he was someone who was not only disliked by the Czech people, but also by the Nazis, who actually locked him up inside one of their concentration camps at Dachau. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.